Runkel, for coming in and talking to us here in the library about books and your history of reading books. What books are on your nightstand right now, or what are you reading right now?
Currently, I have a book called Circe on my nightstand. It's by Madeline Miller. I'm about 2 chapters in right now, and it is an excellent historical fiction that has already reeled me in. I don't know how this is going to go, but it looks like there's going to be some really good twists and turns. Me, as a history teacher, of course, I like reading historical fiction novels, but I've been especially into them ever since I graduated from college. I've started getting into them a lot more. So I just started that one.
Cool. What about like the last great book you read before reading Circe? What was the last great book you read?
The last great book I read, it's right here, and it's called Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. It is an amazing novel. This book had me hooked within the first 2 pages, and I read it in less than 48 hours. It was an unbelievably heartbreaking but beautiful story about a girl who grows up and feels very alone but finds solace in nature and in special people that come into her life throughout the book. It's amazing. If I'm being honest, I even shed a tear. I was so into it. I had myself wrapped into it because I had been reading it for 48 hours straight, but it was worth every second. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I highly recommend it.
All right, awesome, cool. Well, tell us about how you like to read. Like, what's your ideal reading experience? Where, when, how?
So, if I'm being extremely specific, my ideal reading experience is probably a nice chilly fall or winter day. Something that it's not too nice outside, so it's usually like cloudy or rainy, because if it feels really nice out, I'm going to want to be outside instead of inside. But my ideal reading time is inside on a chilly, maybe stormy, rainy kind of day, wrapped up in a blanket that I just pulled out of the dryer because it makes the experience much cozier, with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, depending on the time of day, and some nice quiet music playing in the background. Just something to really let me slip into this world and slip out of this one. That would be my favorite way to read.
Cool. And tell us about you as a child. Like, what kind of reader were you as a kid or adolescent? What kind of books did you like, or authors?
I read way more when I was in middle school and high school than I even did when I was in college. I'm getting back into it right now, but when I was younger, even in elementary school, I was an extremely avid reader. I would wake up in the morning early before school just to get a couple extra pages in of the books that I was interested in. Just off the top of my head, I would do that with the Twilight series. I would wake up super early in the morning just to get a few pages in of Twilight before middle school. I did it with the Harry Potter series, and a couple of other books that I really was able to get into. But I read all the time when I was younger.
A question that I didn't prepare you for, but have you ever given a book as a gift or received a book as a gift that you really like?
For Christmas, because I'm not a very good Christmas list creator, I usually ask for a person's favorite book. So I ask, for example, if somebody in my family got me pulled my name to get gifts this year, I asked for their favorite book. And I got this 2 Christmases ago from my younger sister. She gifted me the book The Alchemist by Paolo Coehlo, I believe. And it is a phenomenal book. It became very quickly one of my favorites. And I loved it. And that is a gift that I think that year it was my favorite gift because it was something that ended up being very personal to me. Yeah.
Did it help you understand your sister?
It did. So the book, The Alchemist, is a really good one. It's about a young boy who is just essentially, to not give too much away, he's just trying to find his way and the meaning of his life. And it gives a lot of insight to, I think, a classic human problem. Like, why am I here? What are my dreams? What are my goals? What am I trying to achieve here? My sister gave that to me when she was in college still, and I think it spoke a lot about her life as well as mine, because it was 2 years ago, the Christmas right before I started teaching here. So it was a really impactful book.
Cool. what are the kinds of books that you enjoy reading, like genres?
Oh, I am a sucker for romance novels, of course. The really dramatic kinds that kind of end up being a little bit cheesy at the end. Personally, and if you've ever had me in class, you will know, or if you've ever even had a conversation with me, I am not a fan of unhappy endings. And so I try to read books, although they're not always realistic. I like to read books that have happy endings, and a lot of times that's a romance novel. I also really enjoy historical fiction. If they can throw some romance in there, then that's my ideal book.
Tell us about a memory you have of a library.
My memories in a library date back to elementary school. I remember my local library on the east side of Indianapolis. It was right next door to my elementary school. And we would take field trips to the actual, like our city library pretty frequently just to give us the experience. But I think my favorite library memories, every summer when I was in elementary school and even into middle school, our library would do a reading program. And my sister and I were always a part of the reading program at the library, and we would check out books. And if you read so many pages or you finished so many higher level books, you would qualify for a prize at the next week's book giveaway, that sort of thing, and I loved doing that. Our library also was really, really cool. We had a similar maker space to the one that we have here, so we could do arts and crafts, you could build things with building blocks, you could sit and curl up in a cozy chair and just read for hours. It was something we did a lot in the summer when there was no school.
Mm-hmm. And let's say you're organizing a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
Which 3 writers or characters would you invite? Why?
So I gave a lot of thought to this question, and I can only come up with 2 that I'm really certain on, and then I've got a couple of maybes. They're on the bubble. One of them is Kaya from this book, Where the Crawdads Sing. She is such a knowledgeable young woman. We start following her when she's 6 years old, and then we end our story when she's in her mid-20s, my age right now. And she's so knowledgeable about the land that she lives in, and she just brings a brand new perspective to the world that most other people can't. And so I think it would be really fun to pick her brain. Another person would be Mindy Kaling. She is not just a writer, she's also an actress as well. She wrote her own autobiography, I suppose, but it's more of a collection of funny essays about her life. That book made me laugh out loud. I highly recommend reading it. But she also writes for shows like The Office. She wrote for SNL. So I think she would be really just a funny and entertaining person to invite. For the third one, I kept racking my brain, and I'd really like to meet like every single character in the Harry Potter series. That was a huge part of my childhood. Of course, I've read the books several times over. I couldn't choose from any of those. And then I would really like to invite, I was thinking about this, Lucy from the Chronicles of Narnia. She's the youngest of the siblings in the Chronicles of Narnia. And she grows a lot throughout these books because I think there's 6 or 7 of them. And I think that her perspective would be really great to invite to a dinner party as well. But I can't nail down a third.
Okay. You brought some books. Do you want to talk about the books you brought?
Yes.
You want to talk about them?
So The City of Ember was a book that I read. I think I was in 8th grade when I read it. And it was a really quick read for me. I haven't read it since 8th grade, but I saw it on the shelves here and I freaked out because it just flooded me back. I remember getting this book as a reading assignment in class and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to read this book. I don't want to read this book for class. They're never good. And it was totally false. This book was amazing. It's about like a dystopian universe, and these people are living underground and they have no idea that the earth above us even exists and that there's a whole population of people, and they just live underground and they tunnel, and it's just a really, really interesting book about a world that we are not accustomed to. It was really a great one. Let's see here. Any Nicholas Sparks. I told you I love a romance novel. I'm a sucker for a romance novel, and Nicholas Sparks does a great job of having a happy ending most times, or at least trying to package it up nicely. The Notebook, heartbreaking, but so good. He also wrote this book, A Walk to Remember. This book, both of these books actually have movie adaptations, but I will tell you right now that the book is a million times better. This book will have you ugly crying all over the pages, so you might want to get your own copy because you're going to ruin the library copy, but it's a great one. I already mentioned Harry Potter. You know, I grew up on these books. They meant a lot to me as a child. And of course, they also have movies as well now. But I highly suggest reading them. They're a quick read. They're so interesting, and you really get to, you feel like, especially when you read them in high school and middle school, you really get to grow up with these kids because they start out at age 11 and they end up at age 17, 18. So it's really a relatable series that also includes like magic and monsters and that sort of thing, which I love. The Help is a great book. This also has a movie adaptation, but I promise I read all these books before the movies. This is a really great book about race relations. It's kind of a historical fiction adaptation sort of deal that I really, really enjoyed. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's true in a lot of senses, and I really highly recommend it as well. And then the last one that I gathered up here from the library is every single Chronicle of Narnia. Don't be intimidated by this big book because they usually come in really thin sections, and they're pretty quick and interesting reads. This is also another kind of fantasy novel. There's kind of a trend. I like those as well. This has to do with young kids entering into a magical world that's unlike anything they've ever experienced, with talking animals and monsters, and it also includes some like witchcraft and that sort of thing, but it's something that I really enjoyed. These also have movies. Not all of them have movies. I think 2 or 3 of them do, but they're excellent as well. That's all I could find from this library.
They're good books.
They're great.
Last question is, tell us what you think the importance of reading is to you and to other people.
Well, for me, right now, reading gives me an excuse to sit down and relax and think about something that's not going on right now. Whether it's the world, whether it's my own life, whether it's even just something small like cleaning up the extra dishes or something. I'm able to sit down and involve myself in something that I really find enjoying that I really find myself enjoying, and that really helps me relax. I think it's important for people to start reading, especially at a younger age, just to get yourself into the habit. Oftentimes when life gets busy, you forget to take care of yourself, and I think reading is a really good way to do it. You get to relate to people certain types of people who you may not have met in your real life, and hear different perspectives from different people about the world that we live in. There are a lot of great books being released right now about the current state of the world that I'd really enjoy reading and talking to other individuals who have read the books as well. So I think it's really important. It's another aspect of reading is just staying current, staying up to date with what's going on in the world. So, yeah.
Great. Is there anything else you want to say?
Even if you think you don't like reading, I promise there is a book that speaks to you. There's books about sports, there's books about love, there's books about crime and murder. I know a lot of people are really into crime podcasts and show right now. There's mysteries, history, science. There's even books about games, comic books, those sorts of things. I mean, there's something for everyone. So I encourage everyone to pick up something that sounds even remotely interesting and give it a go.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Runkel.
You're welcome.